Hey, what's up? How are you all doing today? Thank you so much for checking out my channel. Today we're playing Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb on the Xbox One X. I've covered this game quite a few times. At least I think I did. I know I covered it on the PlayStation 2, which is in my opinion the weakest version. And then I played the emulated version on the Xbox 360. Even though the Xbox 360 version played quite well, it did have a lot of sound issues. It would replay the same loop of music over and over again, where you almost felt like turning the sound down. As a matter of fact, I think I did. And it made it not enjoyable because part of Indiana Jones that's iconic is the music, and one thing that gets you really psyched playing this game is hearing the theme. They actually recorded original music for this game. I don't know what I'm gonna say that I've said in other videos, since I've already covered this game at least 2 other times. Again, this is in my opinion the best Indiana Jones game ever made. A lot of people feel like the adventure games of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, there was originally a third one planned and it got canceled. I think story-wise those are good games, but they don't feel like Indiana Jones. I also feel like the voice actor who plays Indiana Jones doesn't really sound anything like Harrison Ford. I think this voice actor kind of does like a better job, but not that great. Ironically, I think one of the shittier Indiana Jones games, which was Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, which came out on the Wii and the PlayStation 2. There was originally a version that was supposed to use the same engine, Euphoria, or some version of it, like, because I know the Rage engine, which is the GTA games that Rockstar uses for Grand Theft Auto 4 and Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto 5, and I imagine Red Dead Redemption 2. I think it's different. I think Euphoria is kind of like Havoc physics. It's like kind of like a plug-in or add-on to a already established engine. But there was a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 version, and I'm sure there was a PC version, and actually George Lucas was involved in the story, and you can kind of tell that the story is more in depth, even though the Wii and the PlayStation 2 games just feel like a bunch of mini games. The voice acting was actually, at least for whoever was playing Indiana Jones, sounded a lot like an older Harrison Ford, like from Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls Harrison Ford, and they got a lot right, and I only can imagine what the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 version would be like. Unfortunately, there's like a lot of demos that just show off kind of like what the engine can do, so I don't know if it was actually what the game would be like. If what the game would be like, it kind of reminds me of the Wii version that's like a bunch of mini games, and that's not what Indiana Jones is. I think the best Indiana Jones game would be either play like Tomb Raider or Uncharted with the iconic sound effects. That is one thing that this game did get right. There is a game before this called Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine. If you're curious about that voice acting, the voice actor from Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis actually did that voice as well. I believe the female sidekick, I think her name was Sophia. I can't remember. It's been a while. That was actually one of the few console ports I actually thought was actually better than the PC, which was really rare at the time. Last minute, Factor 5 actually, who worked on the amazing Rogue Squadron games, to give you an idea of how much they can squeeze out of a system, like, because when I see the Rogue Squadron games on, like, especially the Nintendo GameCube, it blows my mind. That has no business being on that system. To me, that almost looks like a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 game. but Blockbuster had an exclusive on it, and it was towards the end of the Nintendo 64's life cycle, and they kind of made the game like less clunky or whatever. I had a copy. I played it. They added kind of like analog controls and like a Zelda like inventory system, and it had like the Z targeting, which if you're not familiar with Zelda, Z targeting essentially means that like you hold the trigger on the Z button and it locks onto the enemies, but it was really clunky. Like you could fist fight, but it just didn't feel good. All that felt good for this time, for this type of game. At the time, this game was, in my opinion, the best kind of game. Now, going forward, like playing Uncharted and the newer Tomb Raider games, this game feels kind of outdated. It's a little bit clunky, but since it's Indiana Jones, it feels good. I kind of wish like everybody's like Uncharted already exists, so we have an Indiana Jones game. You have a game that's like Indiana Jones, or maybe even I guess Square, like whoever makes what is it, like Eidos Montreal, or whoever makes the Tomb Raider games, whoever is working currently on the Avengers game, which I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that it's good because of the pedigree of developing the Tomb Raider prequel. I don't know what you would call it. It's like a remake and a prequel at the same time. And Rise of the Tomb Raider, I know a different company made Shadow of the Tomb Raider. All those games are amazing. I think it would be more realistic for them to work on an Indiana Jones game than I could never see Naughty Dog working on it. But if they combine that with the Indiana Jones license, I don't care if it would just reuse Uncharted like graphics, control schemes, or physics, or Tomb Raider. Like I think that game would be amazing, because even though essentially like Uncharted and Tomb Raider are like Indiana Jones games, like the Indiana Jones character is just so iconic, with the music, with the sound effects, especially with the action set pieces and stuff. When you play some of these Uncharted games, or near like behind vehicles and jumping on trains and shit like that, that was the stuff you wanted to play as Indiana Jones. As much as I love Nathan Drake, it would have been so much more iconic if it was Indiana Jones. I mean, that's just my opinion. So, this game runs native 4K as far as my eyes can see. Like, I don't have all the special equipment that Digital Foundry has, but it runs really well. It fixes all of the sound issues, so it runs perfect. As far as I can tell, like, I'm used to playing the more responsive, more frames of animation, more modern games. Like, I can't hold for this time. This game was like flawless to me. It was like one of my favorite games. Like, I couldn't see anything. Sometimes you don't know how good you have it until you have something better, and then you look back. I'm probably saying this in reverse. Like, so you don't know how good things are until you look back and play the things that you used to think were good, and they're not as good as you remember, and then you realize how awesome games have progressed from now. I think a lot of times we get jaded, and we don't think games are as good as they used to be. But sometimes when you go back and play these games, they're not as amazing as you remember. And like the physics are there, like the collision's a little bit off. I'm used to like I guess there's little things that the developers do where they kind of like compensate a little bit for, like, if you kind of miss the jump a little bit, like the character will grab onto the ledge, or if you haven't hit that rope just quite right, they'll reach and get the rope. Like, I I don't get that far in the game because I'm used to the game compensating for my lack of precision. And there's a lot of things now that we take for granted, and I think we just get super jaded. I'm in the fortunate enough position to have played a lot of games. I'm sorry I'm all over the place. I'm sorry that I'm sorry. I know I have a bad habit of apologizing nonstop. It's like a habit I'm really trying to break, especially as an adult. But yeah, this game still looks really good. And once you get back in the hang of things and realize that it's not modern Tomb Raider of Uncharted, it's really good. And EA, they don't have a Tomb Raider like game. I mean, they like to capitalize on everything. They should get on the Indiana Jones bandwagon for sure. They're apparently making a new Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford, I believe he turned 78 or 79 this year, and like they haven't even started filming. Like, I don't know how much of an Indiana Jones movie that's gonna be, unless they have like a stunt double and they like, I don't know, CGI his face on that person. I don't know. I hope the movie's good and does Harrison Ford justice. No matter how you feel about the newer Star Wars movies, Harrison Ford's Han Solo was on point because it's like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's a good actor. Even though it's like Harrison Ford playing a part, I always feel like Harrison Ford's those characters. And another actor I feel that way with is like Robert De Niro. Like, even though Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford look exactly the same, they feel like two completely different people to me. And I think even I have my issues with Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. I came to terms with it more when I actually kind of realized what they were doing, where they were trying to capitalize on the B movie 1950s films with like sorry, I can't think today. To give some context of why I can't think today, and there I went, I just realized I apologized again. I'm so considerate though, you gotta give me that. Like, I went to the grocery store today and stuff like that, and then shit like burns me out. But I really want to start making videos on a regular basis. The last 2 weeks I've been kind of like a mess. I've been extraordinarily stressed out for several different things. But you don't want to hear about that. But that's kind of why I'm a little bit spacey, because I'm trying to make videos. A lot of the videos that I've shared haven't been gameplay videos. Looking back at a lot of my videos too, like, I miss playing the game and recording the commentary at the same time. I felt like that gave my videos a lot of charm, but it was at the price of shittier audio, which, as I've gotten better at getting better footage, especially with everything from the PlayStation 2 and up, like, I've had to kind of record it separately and then record the commentary over the gameplay, but it isn't quite the same, and then streaming it. Nobody watches the streaming videos. As like, I don't want to be the most popular channel, but I do really enjoy interacting with you all. And I don't know what's going on, like, not the most popular YouTubers, but I know like semi-popular YouTubers that are pretty popular, that have a decent following. I'm talking about people that have over 1 million subs, but they're not like a name that you could put out and everybody would know what it is, if you get my drift. Seeing Twitter, like, a lot of those people aren't getting a lot of views, and it's not the views that I care about as much as I just really enjoy interacting, like, back and forth. That's one of the reasons why I did this. Like, I'm really socially awkward and I try to put myself out there, and I'm kind of introverted, and unless it's like in a job or a professional situation where it's like structured and I have to talk to people and it's not really me, it's kind of like a work persona, like it's really difficult, like being vulnerable like that. So I enjoy practicing talking to people. That makes me sound like I'm 3 years old, and I'm slowly gaining social skills, but it's more than that. But I miss when I watch the old videos of like kind of, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I feel like I was kind of funny when I was more reactionary just watching a video. Because a lot of times, even though I have a little thumbnail of the video playing, I'm not really paying that much attention to it. I'm just giving you like my thoughts as they come. And this is the part where you're not going to see beyond past this. And I've actually beat the PlayStation 2 version of this game, which is saying a lot because of the frame rate. Oh my gosh, the resolution. Even when it was new, I was like, and the PlayStation 2 version was delayed so much. And the first version of this game I played was the original Xbox. I went over a friend's house and he rented it, and it blew my mind because the last Indiana Jones I played was the Infernal Machine that I mentioned before that I owned, that played very much like a slightly better Tomb Raider with archaic puzzles. Like, I don't know, this game has like Uncharted quality puzzles where they're really easy to solve and stuff like that. The fighting's good. You don't get that many weapons in the game, but the weapons sound right and everything like that. It just feels like legit Indiana Jones. I would just love to see somebody just, I don't care, rip off of like Tomb Raider and Uncharted and call it Indiana Jones, and I would be so happy, as long as the game itself was decent and the voice acting was decent and the sounds were right. I just feel like every Indiana Jones game that's come out, it's always had like the right ingredient in one section, and then in the others it was lacking. Like point and click games, Indiana Jones is an action adventure franchise. Like, it's kind of hard for action to translate in a point and click game. I mean, there were some attempts, like if you ever played the game Full Throttle, that had a little bit of action moments when you're on the motorcycle trying to use your chain. That's another LucasArts game, which they remastered and put it on most contemporary systems and things. A game that not a lot of people played that I really enjoy. I think that, like, I had the Commodore 64 port and I adored it, even though when I looked back at it, it doesn't look like how I remember it. But I remember at Skateaway they had the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom arcade game, and it actually had voice samples. And I remember hearing Molaram going, "Welcome," and I couldn't get far in it at all. But it was so much fun for the 3 minutes that I was able to play it before I lost all my lives and got a game over. I would get so excited when I'd make it into the throne room and have to get one of the Shankara stones. I believe I made it to the bridge, but I usually would die there. I've never been good with an arcade joystick. But, you know, you think you would go to the skating ring to skate, but I always was interested in the arcade games they had. I remember they had that, and then they had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, which at the time looked better than anything I could ever play on the Nintendo. I know they had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, on the NES, and it had some extra levels, but it looked like shit compared to the arcade game. And that's another game that they took off of the digital stores on the PlayStation 3. I don't think it came out on PlayStation 3. I think it was an Xbox Live arcade game. Either way, that was one of the games that they took off of the store that you can't buy anymore. There were some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2. What am I saying? Sorry, I'm thinking about that it was on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 game on the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox, and you could unlock the arcade game, and then you could unlock Turtles in Time and the third PS2 and original Xbox games. But apparently Konami somehow lost the music to their own game, which is really weird to me, but that's what they did, and they redid the whole soundtrack. And it was weird because the music, especially I feel like in the first one, not so much in Turtles in Time, was super iconic. The first time I ever saw that game was in a miniature golf area, because apparently that's where you would go to play arcade games. Was a miniature golf place. They actually had a lot of pinball machines there too, and I went there circa 2008, and they had the Indiana Jones fucking pinball game, which blows my mind. I think I know they have a Ghostbusters pinball game, and Ghostbusters is probably my favorite movie of all time, but that Indiana Jones game, pinball game, I know there's two different ones, but the original one, it actually had a fucking pistol, that actually for a plunger that launched the ball. It was incredible, and it had sound clips from the movie, and then it had the little dot matrix, whatever the fuck you call that screen. I don't think it was LED, maybe, but I'm thinking it was more like some other technology. It was whatever that thing is on the side of the Ecto one. This is a really deep cut reference that's super nerdy, that it says we're back, hiring, we're ready to believe you, on the Ecto 1A. I always get killed by it. I don't know whether it's an alligator or a crocodile. We'll just say crocodile because it's more exotic. Speaking of alligators, they're usually represented as super aggressive and active, and I'm sure they're that way if you mess with them, and especially with their young and everything. But when I was in Florida and kayaking in the Everglades, they were super lazy. But I heard if you came across a crocodile, which are endangered in the United States, so I didn't see any, they're apparently really aggressive. But they're these stupid tourists that there was this nature trail that you walked, and pretty much when you start going towards the bottom of Florida, every little body of water, even a little ditch or creek, seems to have a fucking alligator in it. And these idiots were just throwing shit at the fucking alligator. I felt so bad for it. Granted, their brain's the size of a lima bean, and maybe they're not even self-aware. They're like little robot mouths, because all they do is eat and just stay still all the time. I don't know. And dig holes and go into the mud. I don't know where I'm going with this. But yeah, I was like, please grab that guy in front of his children and eat him. Please set an example. What sucks is if that alligator did anything, all animals, they do anything wrong, even if it's a minor bite or something, they would end up putting it down for the idiot that was messing with it or whatever. It's just so unfair. It should really be a case by case basis. Now, I can understand rabies, but I don't think rabies is a reptile issue. By the way, if you didn't think Mikey's Video Game Madness wasn't educational, here's a fun fact. Marsupials, due to their different body temperature range, aren't as susceptible to rabies. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. So the next time you see a possum foaming at the mouth with its back hiked up, drooling all over the place with its nearly blinded white foggy eyes, feel free to pet it, pick it up, give it a strawberry, bring it home, let it play with your infant child. So yeah, I beat this on the PlayStation 2, and even at the time, I was really depressed, and I waited think several months. I was pretty convinced it was going to be canceled. If I remember correctly, it was like one of the first games that I pre-ordered. And get this, I pre-ordered it from LucasArts because I remember getting like a Indiana Jones pin. And it had like a little, it was clear at the top portion of the pin. It had like a little plastic swirl, and when you pushed the button, it would turn red. And it would say Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, and it like blew my mind. It's like, well, it actually had like a really cool instruction manual. Every version of this game did. But I was so excited, and I put it in, and it looked like garbage compared to the Xbox 360 version, but it was the best I had. I feel like the frame rate was off, but it was missing like all of the normal mapping textures, like some of the metal, like the guns and stuff like that. It didn't have like that reflective sheen, and they didn't really pick like an alternative texture, like these chains right here, like how the shading on them changes and stuff like that. It would just all be static, and the resolution was so low on the PlayStation 2. It was so fuzzy. I recorded the PlayStation 2, but I think I recorded it with the PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 3 upscales the PlayStation 2 a little bit, but it was so fuzzy that you really couldn't see any jagged edges, and the resolution was so low you could not see the band around. Well, you could see it, but you'd have to like zoom in. It almost looked like his hat was solid brown, like you could barely see the band in it. But I mean, if it was your only option, it was awesome. But when you started getting into the later levels that had larger set pieces, it kind of tried your patience a little bit. It felt broken. I feel like the game froze on me a few times, which is fairly uncommon for, I know that's like status quo in a lot of modern games these days, but that was fairly uncommon for a console game at the time. But still, I was really happy to play it. And then I eventually got an original Xbox when I started working. I believe I started working at a grocery store, which was good times. My first job, like, and going to school at the same time I started college. And I got an Xbox just so I could play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which is a game that begs to be remade, but I think the best they'll ever do is just come out with a high resolution version of that game. I don't think it would hold up very well, and I'm basing it on memory and the couple of screenshots I've seen online and in a magazine. Maybe that chapter should be left alone. The sequel came out really fast for that game. Some people say the sequel isn't as good. Some people say it's better. I don't know. I believe Obsidian actually made the sequel, the same people who made the Outer Worlds, and then BioWare made the first one, which I played. I played a little bit of the second one. The second one feels more like an expansion pack. Like, they made that sequel so fast, they didn't really have a lot of new assets. They just kind of came up with new characters and stuff like that. But I am so pleased that this game got backwards compatibility for the Xbox One. Apparently it was around for a while. It's just my lazy ass didn't to look. I don't play my Xbox One X as much as I should. I really want to finish the Master Chief Collection, the 2 Gears of War. I want to play Forza more. There's a lot of games that I would like to play, and I like how some of the Xbox Series X games like Halo Infinite are going to be compatible. At least that's what they're saying now. But I think, my own personal opinion, and I could be completely wrong, but when they're advertising backwards compatibility, I don't think it's going to be native. Oh, I can put every disc in and it's going to work. It's going to be just like this game, in my personal opinion. This is what I think. And I could be wrong, and you can send angry comments, and we'll be socializing. It'll be super fun. But I think the only games that are going to be compatible are the games that they're already going to be selling in like the Xbox store. So if you don't have that game, or like some obscure like favorite game that's not the most popular license or game in the world, you might miss out, and that kind of sucks. But I think that's the way it's going to be. Like this game, I'm just putting in the disc so I can download the game for free, but it's not reading off of the disc, it's reading off of what I'm downloading off of the internet, or what I downloaded off of the internet. This game just says, oh, it's okay. But if you have this game, or if it's for sale in the store, I would definitely check it out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all doing well. Take care. Bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.